Hi, I'm Keith. Mark's behind the camera, and today I'm going to paint a spring pansy. This is a bright little feller. I'm just going to do the one, and it's kind of a close-up, sort of a who was that artist? Can't even think of her name. We're not even going to bring it up again, but we are going to start painting.
She's a delight, and you should check out all of her work.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, it's a super famous artist, and with
tell us in the comments.
With my horrible, excuse me, my horrible sometimers disease.
Was it Bob Ross?
No.
Very, all painting.
Very famous woman. Used to paint ginormous flowers. Deserts. Gosh, this is... Somebody get out on the phone and look it up in Google. We don't know her name. All right, so I'm going to begin with a very bright yellow. This is kind of a goldenrod yellow. I've also mixed a little cad yellow light. I want it bright. Now I'm going to paint the whole thing. There are some other deeper colors in this thing.
You didn't wet the paper.
I didn't.
Why?
I was lazy. Okay. Fine.
As long as you have a reason.
Sometimes, if you're fast enough, you can just get it done. But I am going to agree with Mark. Do as I say, not as I do. Whatever. So we're going to wet the whole flower down. I will feel more confident that you will do it yourselves.
Whew, that was close.
Yeah. That's why you're here. Keep me honest. So, with water on the paper, you let it soak in a little bit. Then you apply it's a very, wet paint with with what you have already. The water on the page. Okay? That just helps it kind of flow around a little bit easier. Now, I do have a picture off to the side that I'm looking at. I don't want you to think this is an imaginary pansy. This is yellow with some very intense reddish browns in it, and I think it's very pretty. So the thing is, we start with the yellow because it's going to be the lightest color. You always, with watercolors, work from light to dark. So, all right, here we go. Giant yellow pansy. Take one. Now, as you can see, I have added an intense amount of color so that I can then let it kind of bleed. Yeah, that might be better, right?
Yeah, you're fine.
Okay, so we can let it bleed in a little bit.
What's the purpose of picking up the paper, though? Just for the people at home?
Oh, I'm kind of moving the paint around a little bit. So,
just letting it run down.
Yeah. So we don't want everything to be all the same value. It's kind of fun when there's a little bit of light, a little bit of darker color. So that's all I'm doing. It's just kind of creating a little bit of diversity in value, I guess. All right, so at this point, guess what we have to do?
Take a nap.
That's exactly what I was thinking. All right, so we are going to take a little break here, and I'm going to allow this to dry, okay? Then I'll come back and we'll start adding the other colors. That'll make this very pretty. Okay? Break. Hi, I'm back. The paint is dried. It's dried a little bit lighter, obviously. It's about 40% lighter, but I think it's got enough value for the rest of the painting I'm going to do. It'll be fine. So if not, I'll sneak a little more color in, but right now I'm going to add the two back petals. Have a lot of very intense reddish color. So I'm going to go ahead and start on that. So
Not to contradict you, but I think that's more about a 30% lighter. Who decided that it was 40%? Is what I'm at.
The scientists and doctors. Doctors, yeah.
Doctor?
Yeah, doctors. Both scientists and doctors agree with me. Anyway, I have kind of blended together a deep red and looks like a little bit of Venetian red. Okay, so we're going to come back to the question that we had earlier in the segment. Who was the artist that used to do giant flowers?
Who was that?
Georgia O'Keeffe. So anybody got that right, you could call in and laugh at me because I had to look it up on my phone, okay? Anyway, so I'm sorry. I'm going to start wetting these two back petals. I got to look at it again real quick, see what I got here. What do I got here? Okay. So with arches, with good watercolor paper, you can let the paint dry. That kind of sets the color, and then you are able to apply another layer of color. This, the letting it dry is what sets the color, and then you can go over top of it, and the other color will not lift up. The yellow won't lift up. Unless you really scrub at it and make it a major effort at it. But that's the difference between good paper and cheap paper. Good paper is usually made out of cotton, 100% rag cotton, and
good paper is made out of rag cotton.
Yes.
Okay, make sure I heard that right.
And then cheap paper is made out of paper, wood, wood byproducts. And believe me, it makes a difference. The cotton and the sizing actually hold on to the paint much better. So I'm going to go ahead and start applying this color. Now I'm going to let it bleed from the middle out because I want it to kind of fade away to the edges. I still want to have some yellow on the edges. So right now, I'm looking at the color on the image, and I'm thinking, ooh, much more color, a lot deeper. So I'm adding a lot more paint. It's wet, and as you can see, it bleeds, and that's exactly what I want it to do. I want to leave like a kind of almost a thin layer of yellow around the edge, okay?
You know what they say, if it bleeds, we can kill it.
Now you're scaring me. Okay. All right, where was I? Dang it. All right. No, what I was going to say is I want to leave a little bit of a fine edge out on the yellow. So what I want to do is when I put my color in, I don't want to bleed it too far to the top. I want it to kind of bleed up to the top, okay? So as you can see, I'm still working from down here, and then let it kind of bleed. I can pick it up and let it move a little bit, okay? Okay. All right, now over here, where it got a little dry, you can almost see the hard line. So I'm just gonna see if I can maybe gently wet this up here and let it, there we go. Let it continue to bleed. That sounds terrible. I'm also going to see if I can add a little more value to this image with a little more color. I have selected some Carmine, and I put it on thick, very little water, okay? Okay. Anyway.
Oh, now you want comments, huh?
Yeah. I need people to respond to me. Makes me feel like
I'll put in the laugh track later.
Yeah, thanks.
Filmed in front of a live studio audience.
Oh, God, that would be awesome.
But it'll be the same 5 seconds of laughter.
Yeah,
every time.
over and over, yeah.
It's not obvious.
As a matter of fact, we got the laugh track from the old Lucy Ricardo show. I Love Lucy.
You know, they claim that all those people that you listen to in those laugh tracks have passed away long time ago.
Oh, a long time ago. All right, seriously, I need a very dark red now. So I'm going to take this deep red. I'm going to put a lot down. And I'm going to take a little bit of phthalo green. And I'm going to mix that in. And can you see just that little bit, how much darker the color got? So I need some kind of really dark areas, like along this edge here. And then also, I kind of want to...
Now that green is a complementary color to the red. That's why you picked it, correct?
That is correct. That's one way of getting a deeper value to a color is by choosing its complementary color. So the opposite of red is green. Now, not all reds and all greens go together to make a very nice thing. You have to kind of work on it. You got to experiment a little bit. You got to get to know your colors a little bit better. And that's just a matter of using them and experimenting. Doing little test things, little test samples. I know teachers that make people do that. Just, we're going to do all these thousands of variations of color. You can also buy a book, it'll do it for you. You could go, hey, what about these two, So,
I'm actually thinking we'll do it in a future video.
Yeah.
Not on a huge scale, but just to give an example.
Yeah, exactly.
How to do it and how to kind of keep track of.
And we have done a couple videos with the using complementary colors. So you might refer back to the some of our past videos. Mm-hmm. All right. So at this point, this is looking pretty good. I need almost a black red. I know that sounds... So I am trying to use very little water and a ton of paint. And that's what I've done. I've got a ton of paint here. I'm going to rinse this out. Kind of dab it off, get rid of it. And then I'm going to add just once again, a good touch of phthalo green. Now, as you can see, look how much that turned that into a shadow color, basically. I don't want quite that black, okay? So as you can see, I've come back in, add a little more red to get it back more on the red side again. So what I'm looking for is the front of the flower seems to have an extremely, almost brown, dark brown pattern on the front. So that's what I'm going to go for here. And a little over here, I think. Yeah. Okay. Now, I don't know if you could see my pencil drawing at first. It's, I know sometimes it's kind of hard to see, but this thing has, like, on these next three petals, they have like there's three petals here, 2 petals back here. I will divide these up in a little bit using the dark color, but it would seem that the red in this foreground here, and you'll note I didn't wet it because I really want to just apply a very thick, deep color here. So I don't need a lot of water because that would just kind of thin it down a little bit. So, Mark, are you falling asleep?
What?
That's what happens. Get a little lunch, and then if I weren't painting, I think I'd be asleep right now. I do like lunch. Wow, it's one of my favorite things to do.
Yeah, one of my 3 favorite meals.
Yeah. So as you can see, I'm slowly dragging these things out. Notice the little pointy, sharp pointy edges. Hey, that's cute. All right. So in the book it says it reminds me of a guy with 2 eyebrows and a mustache. So I'm going to let it wreck your visual interpretation also, okay?
Now you'll never unsee that.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
That's what artists do.
I was thinking it almost looked like a cutaway of like an apple core or something.
Yeah. I don't know if my younger guys, the paint, with Gene Shalit with the giant mustache and the huge eyebrows. All right, so at this point, what I want to do is I'm going to take a little bit, I'm going to rinse my brush, I'm going to just kind of knock some of the water out of it, okay? But not all of it. And I'm going to go in and I'm going to very gently push a little water along the edges of here, of these little dark areas. And I'm going to get the paint to just bleed a little bit, okay? So that it's a little softer on the edges, so I don't have quite the harsh edges. And you gotta be a little bit careful that you don't overdo it. Yeah. And just a little bit more. I think I'm gonna bleed it in from inside to out. Yes. There's the way to do it. Now, I don't want it too wet, so I'm gonna like it right there. I'm gonna stop on the flower for right now, unless this is dry, and it is. So,
my question:
yeah,
we paused to let the paint dry on the paper. About how long before it dries in your tray?
Oh, I have no idea. Only because I think it really depends on how much water I've been using.
But like, so if my tray actually goes, so say I start this and I'm like, I can't get back to it today, I'll get back to it tomorrow. Would I be able to add water to my paint in the tray and kind of revitalize it as long as it's not full of dust or something? You certainly can. Okay. The color of, or the watercolor paints are reusable until they're gone, okay? So as long as as long as it's there, you can use it. You just don't have to add more water. Perfect.
Well, that's what you do. You have to add more water.
And that's because Schminky brand paints are made of pure 100% pigment. There's no fillers or anything that can taint it and dry. It's color before, it's color after.
That's right. So, but to be honest,
Schminky's is not a paid sponsor of Keith McGuire Arts yet.
Yeah. We love you. We love you, Schminky. All right, I'm starting to pull one petal away from another one. So the front petal and a back petal. Sorry. Yeah, okay. I'm backpedaling. All right, so I'm going to let that...
Beverage. Sorry, I missed the opportunity.
So I'm going to let that set up for a little bit now. I'm going to let this dry. I noticed I made a slight error in the painting. I'm going to show you how you can use this paper. You're going to love this, actually, to correct it. I'm going to use an X-Acto blade. So hopefully I have one laying around. Yeah.
Awkward.
Yeah. So I think at this point I am going to, I believe the edges are dry. They are. I'm going to let that kind of dry up where I was working. And I'm going to grab out some, what is this? This is the, I forgot the name of it. It starts with a P. Yeah, phthalo blue. Phthalo blue, okay? Yeah, that's
starts with a P.
Yep, it does though.
Yeah.
It's stupid, but I didn't make the word up.
You didn't say a silent P.
Yeah.
That's why my guess was off.
Yeah, but no, you were close. Phthalo. Anyway, I'm kind of mixing up. I'm going to try a little bit of this ultramarine blue. No, I'm sorry. This is actually cerulean blue. I'm mixing that in with my Phthalo. I mean, I can picture Sylvester, you know, the cat, actually. Fay there! We're going to use some Phthalo green with a little bit of cerulean and a little bit of the May green, just so it doesn't get too blue-green. Okay? And I'm going to wet the background of this guy. And I'm probably going to have to rinse my water, too, because holy moly, it's getting ugly. Red and green make gray.
Sorry, we're going to have to reset the camera, so we'll have to wait for paint to dry and
okay.
refresh everything in a few minutes.
Oh, in 2 minutes?
Yeah, 2-3 minutes.
Okay. So I'm afraid this wetting I'm doing is for naught, right?
Oh.
I don't know if I can get it all in. Well, I could get some of it in. I think that's what I'll do.
It's not my fault. The camera manufacturers put silly limitations.
What, like needs batteries and electricity and stuff to...
It's a whole other episode complaining about...
your equipment?
Yeah.
You love your equipment.
Most of it. But nothing's perfect, right?
Right. Not like Schminkies.
Not like Schminkies.
The product of champions.
Links where you can purchase Schminkies are in the description below.
That's right. We love Schminkies. And we want them to love us too. Alright. Sponsor. Oh, stop. Stop. I think my problem is, aren't they a German company?
Yeah, I don't speak.
I think our luck of getting spotted by
the internet,
by corporate,
worldwide.
Yeah, by corporate Schminkies, probably going to be a little difficult.
They have a U.S. distributor somewhere.
I hope so. Anyway, so are we?
You better learn to use somebody else's paint.
Yeah, yeah. No, I'm afraid not. I am a great lover of this paint, to be honest with you. I do have other paint companies that I do like, okay? One of them is Holbein, and they're a good tube paint. They also have pan paints, but what I love about Holbein is it's a Japanese paint company, and they their colors are very intense, a little more on the Japanese intensity side. You know, their colors are very bright, very vivid, so very cool. Not as great as Schminkies, but way up there in quality, I think. So, are we about...
Yeah, you got about 30 seconds.
Okay, so...
Whether we just pause for a quick second or if we let it dry, it's up to you.
Well, I'm going to have to let it dry. That's why I hurried up and kind of got this background in as fast as I could so that we could take that break. So, battery break and let it dry break. So, we'll be back. All right, we're back, and I am going to go back to working on the pansy itself. What I wanted to show you was when you make a mistake, there are a couple different ways. If it's, I kind of missed a line that goes around the, a yellow kind of a line that goes around the pansy. So right in this area here, what I would like to do is scrape it out with an X-Acto blade. Now, this is so cool because, you know, there ain't a whole lot of papers you can do this with. But this paper is pretty heavy, and because it's, I think, cotton, it has its own kind of like individual, you know, fibers and stuff. So what happens is it's just that much stronger. I can sit here and kind of dig at it, pull all this color out. Now, if it was a big wide area, you can use a Mr. Clean scratchy pad. Obviously not the blue side, but just the white. What is that material, Mark?
Oh, I don't remember.
Melamine or something like that?
Yeah, melamine foam.
Anyway.
I'll put a link to them in the description below.
Yeah, Mr. Clean.
Or there's other brands. Just the Mr. Clean ones are the most well-known.
Exactly. And they're the ones that kind of realized, hey, we can clean with this stuff, you know? So, often imitated.
I don't know. Andrew really likes the bulk pack that I bought. You saw them. I can't remember. It's just an off-brand, but she really liked them for cleaning houses. So. And
I've used the off-brands, and they're fine too. You know, whatever's available. But what's nice is, used to be you really couldn't erase it. You know, you made a mistake, you live with it, or you fixed it, or doctored it. But nowadays with those Mr. Cleans, if you're using good paper like the Arches, you can pretty much scrub everything right back up again. So please, you know, you get that, you know, opportunity, you know, give them a try. You'll be very pleased. I have to give credit to a friend of mine, Kathy Sutendorf. She's the one that told me about them. I didn't believe her. So 2 years later, you know, somebody else told me about it, and I tried it, and it worked. I'm like, wow, I've got to tell all the people, you know, and I'm like explaining to everybody about these things. And she looks at me and she goes, I taught you that. I told you that 2 years ago. You didn't believe me. I went, I don't remember. So anyway, I'm giving
they hadn't perfected it.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Anyway, I'm giving her credit now. She did enlighten me on the ability of these little guys. All right, so
now we are obligated to thank Kathy every time somebody pulls one out on
yes, exactly. Anytime I make a mistake, the name Kathy Sutendorf will go down with Mr. Clean watercolor cleaning pads. Is that what we're going to call them now, right?
There you go.
So at this point, I can go back in now. I can take my yellow, and I didn't put water on it. I'm just going to paint it. Okay, so there. Now I've got my petal back. So now I got 2 petals in the back. I'm happy.
Or your filament has a part in its hair now.
Yes, exactly. Hey, that's cool. All right. So I got that done. And now I'm going to go in. I'm going to take just a tiny bit of this red. I'm going to mix it with my yellow. Okay. I'm going to create this kind of soft orangey color. I'm going to add a little more of this yellow. There. So see how it's warmed up a little bit? What I'm going to do is use that to kind of create the little bits of folds and shadows in my flower. Now, as you can see, I'm not wetting it because I'm not trying to be loose and soft. I want definite strokes, and I definitely want the petals to start showing up. So as you can see, I got this one, and this one. I've kind of broken it up, and I am going to then at this point, once I get kind of where I want it, and I kind of like what I see, I might take a little bit of water and I'll just lightly soften some of the strokes so it isn't quite so harsh, okay? Not such a hard line, okay? There we go. And any more? Yeah. Ooh, and look, is that a little curl? It is. There's a little bitty curl on the front of my flower. So I'm just going to take that and bleed these up a little. Very cool. And there's also a little curl, excuse me, up here. So I'm just going to do it again. So the these little streaks kind of give it the, you know, the little lines and such that are, you know, how they, you know, how a flower breaks up a little bit. There, yeah. Okay. So over here, I'm going to add a little more shadow on this side. I'm just kind of going right up over that red. It's not going to hurt anything. It's dry, so it doesn't won't really affect it. And I said, unless you know, really scrub on it for a while, then it gets, you know, it'll start getting maybe a little, it'll bleed a little bit. All right, where are we at? I don't know what that thing is, but just want to get it. His nose, yes, exactly. Yeah, there's a little thing right in the middle. I'm not sure if that's what holds everything together, but it's right in the middle there. This is pretty close to what I want here. And then, ooh, now we go back here to the super dark red with a little bit of green in it to help create some very kind of dark lines up in here. A little bit of shadow, a little bit of dark in these back petals. What do we got here? So, all I'm doing is kind of creating, you know, some little bitty folds here and there. Just like in the front we used with the yellow. So I got to use that very dark red. Okay, and again, I will take a damp brush and I will gently kind of blur some of it a little bit so it isn't so so liney. How's that for a word? Liney. Okay, good. Although there are some fine little what would you call it? Veins. I'm seeing a few little fine veins in here too. So, you know, you'll apply a few of these in here and there. Like I said, what I like to do after I put some hard lines in, I'll come around, kind of gently soften this up a little bit. Okay. All right. Now, what you gonna do now? So right now I'm pleased with my flower. I might actually take a little tiny bit of violet, and the reason I'm doing that is to create a little shadow here and there on the yellow. Okay, now violet is the complementary color of yellow. And complementary colors are used to gray down or shadow a particular subject, I guess. So that's what I'm doing, is I'm kind of laying a little bit of shadow on this side to, you know, I don't want just more yellow, okay? That's why I grabbed the violet to do this. I want, or darker yellow. So I am using a bit of this, I believe this is manganese violet.
Oh, Graham, I have to look up the name, how to spell that one for sure.
Yeah, I would call it mag violet.
You would.
Yeah, nice.
So everybody starts commenting they can't find mag violet in the stores.
Yeah, it is. It's right next to the manganese violet. All right, so there I got
in alphabetical order that works.
Yeah. So I think we're kind of good there. Yeah. All right. Now I'm gonna run. Yeah. I'm trying to see what I did for my... Nice. Okay.
I can't see anything.
Yeah, I painted over my lines, and what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be creating some... They have some very kind of rounded, bumpy leaves. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Just like Mag Violet does. Anyway, so what I'm trying to do is I want to kind of break up my background a little bit. So I've kind of... I'm trying to be able to see what I'm doing. So what I'm doing is kind of creating 2 layers for right now, so that I can see what is a leaf and what isn't. And everything's going to get darker eventually. Everything. So, but for right now, I just need to see what I'm doing. So that's what I'm doing right now, is I'm just kind of creating I'm getting my foreground leaves out where I can see them, and then I'll add more leaves behind these. But this is kind of how I'm going to do it, is by putting a little more color on the background to make them kind of pop out a little bit. So I got 1, 2 of the more foreground ones, and then I'm just coming around. And up here, I don't want to see leaves actually at all. I just want to see value. So what I'm going to do is probably make something a little dark. Very rich in color, very dark. So I'm mixing it with the deep red. And as you can see, I get a much more intense green. And it doesn't have to be all green. You can add maybe some other deeper colors. Oh boy. What do I have? That's a very rich, deep cerulean. I'm just going to add a little of that color just to kind of break up the deep green with another deep green. How's that? All right, so
Cerulean was blue.
Yeah, cerulean is blue.
Oh.
And I grabbed a big chunk of it. Now this is Schmincke's cerulean blue. Not all cerulean blues are the same, okay? Schmincke's, I honestly believe, is more like a phthalo blue, okay? So it's very intense in color, very strong. Whereas most paint companies, their cerulean is like a happy sky blue with a lot of texture, okay? So that's the thing you have to be aware of, is what does my paint do? How does it act? They're not all created equal. You would think there is a standard, and there is kind of a standard of standardness, but you know, some companies choose to do things a little bit differently. Schmincke's does with this pan paint. As you can see, the intensity of this deep greens up here really makes the flower start to pop out now. And where am I? Who am I? All right. Adding a little more green to this. I am almost done with this kind of real deep background here. Now, I won't know how good it is or what I got, especially with very deep, intense color like this, until it actually dries. Because you think, hey, I nailed it, right? And you'll come back and you'll go, okay, let's do it again. So hang in there, okay? Just, you know, watch your paint dry. Keep an eye on it. The fun part is doing painting with watercolors is trying to kind of catch it while it's while it's drying, because it gives you an opportunity to kind of keep going. You got to be aware of blooms. Watch out for blooms, but for that, you know, it's something you can work on, practice with, get comfortable with. So right now I am still got those couple foreground leaves that I'm still kind of playing with. I haven't really done anything to them right now. I'm just kind of still pushing color into my background here behind the leaves. Okay. Killing all my reds that I had. Okay, so I know what you're thinking. He quit talking.
I think I'm gonna have to reset the cameras again.
One more time?
Probably.
All right. Well,
you got about 2 minutes if you want to finish something up.
Okay, that's all I'm doing is playing with the background. Just adding color. I'm gonna keep adding color till Mark says we're leaving. But don't worry, we'll come back. We will come back.
One of us will be back.
Well, now I'm worried, you know? Anyway.
You'll have to stay tuned to find out which one.
Okay.
Welcome to Painting with Mark.
Yeah. I have learned enough now. Mr. McGuire is no longer necessary. About done?
I, too, can paint dead grass.
Yeah, dead grass. Old buildings. You're just mean. Alright.
You got 60 seconds.
And I'll be honest with you. He can't paint dead grass like I can paint dead grass. I am a master. Okay. So, 60 seconds, really?
Well, not anymore.
Well, 45 seconds, really? Alright, whatever. Alright, anyway, so we're going to leave for a couple, just for a sec. And he's got to rewind his cameras or whatever he does.
Let a few things dry on your painting.
Let a few things dry on my painting. But I think that's about it. Let's take a break. Alright, hey, this is the last bit of work on this pansy. I just like saying that. We're going to work over this pansy and teach it a lesson. So I'm just kind of finishing up the leaves. They have these kind of weird rounded leaves. And I don't need a lot of detail. But I do want them to be, I want them to look like leaves when they're done. But I also got to get some nice deep shadow under the pansy here. So I'm going back in. I'm going to add a little bit of value, a bit of value. Okay, there.
You're saying the paint's still damp. We didn't let this dry all the way.
Right, because what I'm doing is a very soft and loose interpretation of the leaves under the flower. So the flower has some good sharp edges, contrast. The background here, the leaves underneath, have there'll be some detail. You'll know that a couple of these are leaves that are poking out. But the rest of it is just kind of like nebulous shapes and pieces of leaves that, you know they're leaves. That's about all you know, okay? That's all we'll let you know. So as you can see, I just keep kind of breaking the pieces up a little bit, giving them shape and form, giving them leafy feelings. Here's a leafy feeling now. What do you call those?
You need to ask questions I have answers to.
Well, they're...
I can't help you with these all the time.
Oh, come on. I mean, they're simple things that even both of us should know. You're not helping.
Nope.
Veins. I hope everyone can come and visit me at my home. I'm not saying I'm destined for Alzheimer's, but when I was young, I used to take care of all Alzheimer patients, and I feel that everybody owes me, okay? So come down, visit me at the home. I'll be there. I'll think you're all family, because when it comes to my family, there's just hundreds of us, so I'll just assume you're one of them. Anyway, I teach a lot of kids in Saline, and I tell them that's one of the things they're going to have to do when I finally arrive at the institution. So, as you can see, the background is much softer, much less detail, but at the same time, we know they're leaves. Really?
They look just like leaves.
That's, and that's what I was going for. So, anyway.
Success.
So, I do. I like working with like half wet paint. And as it dries, you add a little more color, you do a little more here, you do a little more there. It is it's the thing about watercolors that makes them so unique, is a lot of times the the paint's doing the job for you. I mean, it really is. You just kind of watch what it does, and then you make decisions. If it does something cool, keep it. If not, add some paint or move it around, slop it a little bit. Anyway, this is kind of where I want to be on the background. I think. Oh, I'm sorry. I kind of like that. I'm gonna let this go for now. Now, probably afterwards, I'll go back in. I'll touch up a little bit. I'll do other things. Most of the time with a watercolor, I find it very helpful that you spend a couple days away from it. Look at it. Put it up on the counter. Whatever. Wherever you put your stuff. And look at it for a couple days, make a couple decisions, and then right at the end, you come back and you might do a little touch up, and maybe not much, but sometimes it really makes a difference getting away from it after a couple days. It really does make a difference. I'm not kidding you. You see it with fresh eyes again. That's what I'm trying to say. So, everything's wet. I was going to go in. I just wanted to... Wow. My, My steady hand isn't quite so steady. And actually what's happening is this brush is just now starting to get old enough. I think that it's almost time for me to retire it because the tip has gotten a little on the fuzzy side, a little soft. It's been a great little tool, but that's why I like these brushes is, when they're done, I don't feel like I've, invested, $50 in a brush. I've invested $4, $5, $8 in a brush. I get a great brush for a little while. And then it becomes like a wash brush, or in my example, what I do is I'll send them off. I'll use them in my kids' watercolor classes because they're, the tips are good enough for them. But for me, I just love super sharp, crispy brushes. So anyway, that's what I'm saying. I'm having there we go.
I know your thought. Same thing I had the first time he said that. Oh, sure, give the kids the crappy tool.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's the idea that once they learn the fundamentals, then you keep using the tools you can afford until the tool becomes the hindrance. It's the same thing in photography or a lot of other things. Once you go, you know what? I wish I could do this. What's holding me back? Now it's time for a brand new, fresh brush.
Yep.
I've got everything else down pat.
Or a brand new, fresh camera. And
yeah, same difference.
In other instances, yeah.
Do I need 9,000 hammers? No, but you know, when I get to a point where I need a special hammer, that's when I go buy it, not to let it sit on the wall.
So, here my philosophy is. Same as the Three Stooges. When I nod my head, you hit it with a hammer.
Uh-huh.
So, I think I'm about done. I just wanted to make this little centerpiece kind of pop out a little bit. I don't know what it is. I think it's the thing that just holds everything together, quite honestly. So.
It's a screw. You just can't tell in the photo.
It's not a flower. Alright, so guys, like I said, I would come back a couple days, touch it up a little bit more, have a little more fun with it. I think I'm about done for today. What I recommend is pull the tape off. Yeah, let's do it. What do you think? Let's pull it off, because it's kind of distracting at this point. I don't usually paint little square paintings, but this just seemed kind of like on the light fun side, you know, so I thought we'd just give it a try. Oops, I see I didn't get the tape quite all the way around, but anyway. So, like I tell the kids, sign it, you're done. Anyway, you take care. Mark, got any...
Make sure to subscribe to the channel, hit that little bell to be notified when new paintings are coming, new classes. Leave us a comment with any questions, concerns, links to examples of your work. We'd love to see it. And in the description are links to where you can purchase all the materials Keith used today, the Schminky paint, the Lowell Cornell brushes, the Arches watercolor paper, the Butcher tray. I might even squeeze in the magic erasers or a substitute in case you're not sure what we were talking about on that. And stay tuned for more stuff. Thanks for watching.
Bye.